Resident Evil remakes have recently been the major talking point within the RE community. With the recent release of Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3 Remake and the upcoming Resident Evil 4 Remake, everyone is wondering what other remakes we could expect. Most people within the community, including myself, really want a dated but magical game like Code Veronica to get the remake treatment, whereas others prefer an underrated but forgotten title like Outbreak to get revitalized. Hell, Resident Evil 0 also has a band of fans wanting it to get a remake. At this point, I wouldn't be surprised if some of us want Resident Evil Survivor to be remade. With the topic of what remakes we could be expecting comes the elephant in the room. On what game will Capcom stop the remakes? Some of us believe it will stop with RE4 since that was the last widely loved RE game until 7, and it will undoubtedly make Capcom loads of money. Others, however, can't help but wonder whether RE5 and 6 alike will receive remakes as well. This topic of conversation practically splits the fandom down the middle, since one side absolutely sees no virtue in remaking games that have barely aged at all, and others think a remake would be a great opportunity to fix some of their more controversial issues. Me personally, I'm mixed on the subject. If you ask me whether I personally want RE5 or RE6 to be remade, the short answer is no. But I do acknowledge that both games receiving remakes could lead to a lot of positives for not only the individual titles themselves, but the overall series. So let's have a conversation. What's up everyone, Residential Biohazard here, aka RB for short, and welcome to today's video. Any like would be greatly appreciated, and why not stick around by subscribing? I exclusively upload Resident Evil content every day at 3 PM US Central, so turn on notifications to get notified. With that said, let's begin. So first things first, let's get the positives out of the way. Like previously stated earlier, I think there is a lot of good that can come out of RE5 and 6 remakes, and now is the time to talk about them. Starting with the obvious, there's the action direction. While RE4 at the very least had some resemblance of classic RE horror, the two main entries that came after it went full Michael Bay, with efforts to increase the stakes and set pieces going higher and higher. I personally think the action gameplay in both of those games were pretty damn good. RE5 was RE4 with bigger enemies and increased weaponry, and RE6 had a ridiculously fun combat system. Both games are fun to play, but something they should change wholeheartedly is the tension. Resident Evil 5 and 6 rarely had you feeling scared. In fact, they rarely had you feeling immersed in the slightest, especially to the level of the other entries. What I think the remakes could get right is increasing the tension of both games. Decrease the amount of explosions, darken the lighting, and it would make a lot of a difference. The action gameplay can still coincide with uneasy atmosphere. Just look at a game like BioShock that pulled this off seamlessly. Imagine how terrifying 5 would be as you're hiding out in shelter, watching helplessly as villagers outside are dragged off and converted to a Magini. Imagine how terrifying 6 would be as you're slowly making your way through a dark alley where you can barely see 4 feet ahead of you when you see something light up brightly ahead. It takes a moment, but you soon realize there's an infected individual undergoing a C-virus mutation. Some of the enemy designs in these games are truly horrifying, and under the right circumstances, they can really scare the player and make the overall tone of the series pretty consistent. Another positive aspect that's to be ignored are the benefits of the RE engine. Both 5 and 6 look fantastic for their age already, but with the RE engine, they would look absolutely fantastic and add to that horror atmosphere I'd prefer they have. Let's also not ignore that the last 4 Resident Evil games have attracted tons of new players, especially RE7 and RE2 Remake. However, a lot of these newcomers probably won't be itching to try out some of the more controversial games like RE5 and 6, so giving them both remakes would ensure that a lot of new players are able to experience Christian Sheva's trip to Africa that concludes with the death of Resident Evil's greatest antagonist, Albert Wesker, and the most chaotic and essential RE story to date, Resident Evil 6. Remaking the series from 2 all the way up to 6 is a smart way to get new players to experience most mainline entries and get familiar with the story, so future mainline sequels are easier to follow. And finally, there's quality of life changes that can be made. Make RE5 a longer experience, remove the filler, and decrease the constant amount of QTEs in RE. Stuff like that. While I love these two games, they certainly have their faults that remakes could remove altogether. But even with all these reasons, I'm still not sold on Resident Evil 5 and 6 getting remade for numerous other reasons. The first and most obvious is we simply do not need remakes. These two games were released on 6th generation consoles and are accessible on modern day ones. Both still look visually stunning, and while products of the time when it comes to QTEs and online elements, their gameplay isn't all that outdated. The only possible thing I can see remakes doing is maybe appeasing the fans by toning down the action, but then that begs the question, why remake these games at all? Both RE5 and 6 are shameless action games. Their entire core identity centers around fast-paced gameplay, large-scale boss fights, and crazy set pieces. If the remakes tone down or take away all these aspects, then what's the point of remaking them in the first place? This is the same reason why I prefer the new RE4 to not be survival horror based. While I love survival horror and prefer it to action, changing the direction of the originals, to me at least, is a betrayal of the original vision. If you want to make an entirely different game aesthetically from the game you're supposed to be remaking, why remake it at all? To me, the purpose of a remake is to take the core elements of the original and expand and or refine it with modern day adjustments. An ideal remake would make the original, no matter how good it is, an inferior experience overall. However, let's just say hypothetically RE5 Remake took away the explosions, took away the shop, decreased the amount of enemies on screen, made them more threatening, swapped out areas, and placed the emphasis on survival horror. All of that is great and all, but if I'm a fan of the OG RE5, why in the hell would I play this? It's so different in every way imaginable, it might as well be its own experience. And that brings me to another reason. While these remakes are good games, the manpower that is going into them could be spent on original titles with new narratives and new characters. Me personally, I'm starting to feel a huge burnout on the whole remake situation. While games like Code Veronica, RE0, and Outbreak deserve one, they should just stop there. The entire action-based RE era still hold up and don't need a graphical overhaul or a huge redesign. I would prefer it if instead of getting remakes we saw a side game like the rumored Outrage, Revelations 3. Hell, give me a new rail shooter. I wouldn't complain if we got a fucking Operation Raccoon City sequel. I don't care, just something new. And finally, another issue, while not as important but still substantial, is retconning established lore. I'm not that scared of this happening since the new RE2 and RE3 didn't really have this problem, but something that I'm worried about is Capcom trying to course correct the story beats of 5 and 6 and confirming that as a new definitive canon. I can see this decision causing the lore as we know it to come crashing down on continuity errors, previously canon titles that now have to be ignored, and taking away the appeal of some narrative decisions that not a lot of people appreciated. I really love the Resident Evil story, and to me, RE5 and 6 had great stories and character moments. I really don't want anything important to the lore to be unnecessarily fucked with or changed, despite how unlikely that is. So yeah, in conclusion, there's a lot of good Resident Evil 5 and 6 getting remade could do, and I think they would be good games if they ever saw the light of day. With that said, these games still hold up, and remakes would be unnecessary and a little problematic. Plus, I'm kind of getting tired of all this remake discourse. But what about you guys? Would you be up for a Resident Evil 5 and 6 remake? Let me know in the comments. I make sure to read every comment I get, and I would love conversating with you guys. If you want more daily RE content, be sure to subscribe. Anyways, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you have, then please like, subscribe, and as always, I will see you guys next time. Peace out.